Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a look at the Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee Studio Series Rise of the Beast Voyager Class 102 Optimus Prime. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Is it a pickup or a pass? Now let's take a look at the figure's packaging. So here we have the packaging. Starting at the very front, we have Transformers going down the side of the box in a black text with Studio Series, also going down the side of the box in yellow text with Buzzworthy Bumblebee and yellow text and a yellow auto symbol. We also do have 102 in blue text because this is the 102nd figure part of the Studio Series line. We also do have Optimus Prime in black text with several images of Bumblebee, Optimus Prime, and Optimus Primal, and an open note displaying the figure in the packaging. If we do look at the top of the box, we have the Transformers Rise of the Beast logo and the Studio Series logo right there. And if we do look at the side of the box, really just kind of a continuation of that corner that I just showed. So we do have the shoulder of Optimus Primal, the shoulder of Optimus, the kind of the corner of the head of Bumblebee, and a small image of RC and 102 again, and half of an Autobot symbol done in black and yellow. And as for the back of the box, the figure transforms in 34 steps. There's a product shot of Optimus and his robot mode with his accessories and his truck mode, and displayed with his included backdrop. There's also a brief description or bio saying Optimus Prime and the Autobots keep watch in case of a Terracon attack, and that bio or description is written in several different languages. And if we do look at the final side of the packaging, really just kind of a running image or artwork shot of Optimus Prime in his robot mode with a really cool Autobot symbol and several different kind of angles and shapes, which looks pretty cool. But that is pretty much it for the packaging. So let's now take a look at the included backdrop. So here we have the included backdrop. This is the Street Festival stakeout. So just quickly taking a look at the details of the included backdrop. On this flap here, we have Transformers in black text with a black auto symbol. On this other flap, we have 102 in blue text with Studio Series in black text. And on this entire square or plaque section where the figure stands or sits, we do have the Transformers Rise of the Beast logo and the Studio Series logo, all done in yellow and black text. And of course, as for the actual background or backdrop itself, we do have the streets of Peru with tons of buildings, some birds and clouds in the sky. And since this is a background or backdrop, you actually can grab the included figure, that being Optimus, and place him on there in his robot or alt mode and have him wait for the next move of the Terracons. Here we have Optimus Prime in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with the head sculpt. I like the really nice glossy blue for the entire helmet section with a really cool antenna or earpieces on the side of the head, a very classic detail trait of Optimus Prime. I do like the really nice silver gunmetal gray for the entire crest and battle mask with a really nice bright blue for the eyes. And I do like all the really nice kind of etching, detailing, and panel lines on the battle mask and the crest section. I think that's a really nice small detail that Hasbro didn't have to do, but they did anyway. I do like the chest with a really cool kind of truck windows, or kind of the front windscreen of the truck on the chest. Another really classic detail that we know and love, a part of Optimus Prime, with the small little windshield wipers done in black, and the tinted windows again, that really nice kind of black, gray, kind of smoky gray color with the really nice silver for these kind of top roof bits, and the classic Autobot symbol at the shoulders done in white and red, and of course the smokestacks. That has actually been kind of a major talking point of this figure for a while now, of course, since it was originally released. Some people have said they're too big, some people have said they're too small. I actually personally think the size is perfect. I have no problem with that. I don't like the kind of cheap, unfinished gray plastic color they chose. It doesn't look very good, especially because this is a Target exclusive and a very rare, sought-after figure. I think probably it would have been better if it was like painted silver or gunmetal gray. I think it would have looked a bit more premium and a bit more complete, because as it is, this doesn't look very good. But if you do like to custom paint your figures and kind of modify them, this entire smokestack is kind of like a blank canvas because it's just gray plastic. There's no paint on it, so you can do really whatever you want with that. But if we do look at the rest of the arm and a bicep, of course, the hand is mostly done in gray, quite simple, but I do like all this really nice kind of gear and mechanical detailing sculpted in. If you do get close enough, I think that looks really, really good. And of course, there's some more gray for the bicep and kind of the top of the form there. And if we do look at the stomach region, there's There's some really nice gunmetal gray paint apps there, and some more light gray, and I do like the yellow bits on the sides of the hips there. And if you do get close enough, again, tons of amazingly sculpted and detailing there. And there's some light gray for the top of the legs, and I do like these really cool kind of light pieces at the knees there. I think that's a pretty cool touch with some more gunmetal gray there. And I love the classic blue Optimus color for the front of the legs and the feet. Definitely a very classic, iconic color for this figure. And if we do look at that side profile there, overall really compact, no kibble on the back itself, none on the arms or the legs. There is a bit of a panel that I'll take a look and closer detail in just a sec, but it's pretty compact. It stays there, it doesn't get in the way, it doesn't hinder articulation in any way, so I have no problems. I do love the wheels on the sides of the leg. I think they look pretty cool. Love the silver in there and the black for the tire. And if we do look at the actual back of the figure, yes, he does have a panel as I previously mentioned, but it doesn't get in the way of articulation. It actually is very securely tabbed into place. It doesn't move, it doesn't bother anything, so I have no problem with it. And there's really no waffling, no empty gaps, no panels on the back of the arms. There is a few pieces here, but they actually do stay tabbed in. I really only care about, panels and stuff on the back of the arms and the legs that they actually do move, or hinder the articulation in any way, but they don't, so it does not bother me at all. But that is it for details. So now for articulation, I think overall pretty good for a Voyager class figure. I do have one major, I guess I would say two major areas that I have a problem with it. I'll mention, of course, once I get to that area in just a sec. But of course, at that head sculpt, of course, the head can look up and down, tilt side to side, look left and right. So we actually got to the first area, which I think you probably already guessed, probably when I mentioned that just before. But one of the areas is the shoulders. They just kind of move very weirdly. I think probably some of them, or some of the people in the Transformers community refer to them as trigger happy shoulders, because they just move and articulate very weirdly, and it makes posing the figure not very fun. So they can move, of course, up and down or in and out, whatever you want to say, and of course forward and back. There is a bicep rotation, a double jointed elbow bend, which is really nice to see, and there is of course a wrist rotation. You can actually slightly move the hand in and out, but that's mostly due to transformation. So the part of the shoulder right here I just don't like. I think the entire form and hand, that's perfectly fine. The bicep as well, that's fine. But the shoulder joint, it's just whenever you're posing and kind of messing with the figure, it looks a bit odd because you really can't articulate the figure how you would really like to. If you want to have the arm fully stretched out, it just seems a bit odd because the shoulders are so big and they kind of get in the way. So I think it would have been nice if they could have designed that and kind of engineered that a bit differently, because in some poses, if you want to have him, with his blaster like fully extended with his arm, it looks kind of odd. So not a fan of that much. But if we do move the arms and the shoulders out, he actually does have a full functioning waist rotation all the way around, which is really good. He also actually does have an ab crunch, which is really cool there. And this is technically mostly due to transformation, but you actually can use it for poses if you want to, so I think that's pretty cool. And I actually was very surprised to see this, because typically, when we think of ab crunch, usually it's kind of on, masterpiece figures, 3-0 figures, third-party figures, but this is a Voyager. Yes, he is an exclusive, but of course the budget for a Target exclusive and a mainline Voyager probably is about the same, so I'm still very surprised to see that. He also does have actually some little kind of hip skirt panel pieces which can move out of the way. And if you would like, you actually can tab into the leg. That's mostly there for the truck mode, but if you don't like them kind of moving around, you can have them locked in if you don't like that. The leg can kick forward to a very good degree. And the second area that I have a problem with is the leg kicking back, because that is as far as it can kick back. That does not look very good. It's not very posable at all. Mostly the thing that's kind of hindering it is this little kind of butt panel here. So if they just remove that, it would be able to go a bit further. I'm not sure really why they didn't just kind of design this differently. I guess maybe just budget. They just didn't have enough money to make that better. I guess, again, if you like to kind of modify and change your toys, you probably would be able to fix this. You probably would have to maybe break a few pieces if you're okay with that, but yeah, this does not look very good in my opinion. I really don't like that. I definitely think that could be better, considering this is a Target exclusive and it is a modern day Voyager. Most deluxes and core classes can kick their legs back, so not really sure why that's any different for this figure. but the leg can also, of course, rotate and kick out to the side as well. There's also a knee bend past 90 to a very good degree, and the foot actually has quite a bit of posability, so it's actually on a ball joint and a hinge, so it can rotate all the way around. It can actually also pivot in and of course out, and also up and down. So really good movement with that foot. Let me just quickly straighten up the figure. So I would say overall, I'd say it's pretty good. There's just a few areas that I really think they could have just kind of designed better, like the leg not being able to kick back like at all. I don't understand that, especially because even if this was, not an exclusive, I really would expect them to have the leg kick back. If I grabbed any Voyager from my shelf right now, like, Legacy Evolution Bludgeon, he can kick his leg all the way back. I would say about all the way back, but this one can't. And this is an exclusive, so I do have to say probably my expectations are a little bit higher for certain exclusives, especially because, this is a very rare, sought-after figure. I definitely think they could have done better with that. And the shoulders, I wouldn't say the articulation is bad. I just think kind of the appearance whenever you're moving the shoulders and the arms, it looks a bit weird in certain poses because the shoulders kind of get in the way. So one's really, not enough articulation, and of course one's just appearance. It just doesn't look good. But and that is pretty much it for articulation. As for tolerances, I'd say they're overall pretty good. I think probably the worst area, the joints that could be a bit tighter, are the arms, because I actually was, doing a few poses. If you actually skipped the image intro, the very beginning of the review, make sure you go back and watch that, because I actually pulled off some pretty cool poses. But when I was taking those pictures, there were a few times where I was actually struggling to have it balanced, because the arms were just not really strong enough to hold some of the weapons and actually hold up the figure. So I think some of those joints could be a bit more tight. As far as proportions go, I think pretty good where like the chest, and the legs are concerned. Probably my least favorite area are the arms. I think they're way too long and too thin, and I definitely think the hand should be bigger. I do somewhat understand why those pieces have to be small, because they do have to kind of form the size of the truck. So there is a bit of, tight, or there's a bit of space limitations. They have to be able to fit in those areas, and they have to be a specific size. And the hands too, of course, they have to be able to fold up inside there, so there is some limitations. But I think sometimes it seems like he has like little baby hands, little baby arms, so those could be a bit bigger. But as for accessories, he does include two, but I actually do want to show this figure off with another accessory that comes with a previous Studio Series Rise of the Beast figure. So there's a bit of a backstory. So I actually did previously review the Leader Class Rise of the Beast Studio Series Optimus Primal. If you've actually missed that review, make sure you go check it out after this one. Well, that figure actually does include a simple gray axe. And if you don't know, maybe if you have that figure wondering why does he include an axe, Optimus Primal never had an axe in the film. Well, it's actually Optimus Prime's axe. It was kind of Hasbro's idea to sort of make you buy two figures. You're supposed to buy Optimus Primal and Optimus here, so you can give that axe to him. So it's sort of a kind of a business trick, to get you to spend more money and buy more figures. From a business standpoint, I do understand that makes sense, but from a collector standpoint, I do not agree with that. Considering this Optimus Prime, if you don't already know, is a very rare, hard to find figure, as I've mentioned multiple times before. And, I think a lot of people who bought that Optimus Primal, which is a mainline leader, I think they'll be easy to track down. Many people sell it. Most people who buy that figure are going to be stuck with an axe and have nothing to do with it, because I think a good 50% of the people or more who get Optimus Primal are not going to be able to get this figure because it's worth so much on eBay and the aftermarket. I was actually lucky and able to find this at a small store, and it was actually just slightly above retail. I think it was like $5 or $10. I was so surprised to see it. So I don't think that many people are going to be that lucky. So I think from a collector standpoint, it just doesn't make sense, because if this was like a mainline Voyager, it would make more sense because people could easily track down both figures, but that is not the case. I think a lot of people are just going to end up with an axe and have nothing to do with it. But I was actually luckily able to get this Optimus Prime figure, as you can see, and Optimus Primal, so I can actually show you the axe with this figure. I think it's an okay axe. I think probably what it's supposed to be is, if you've seen the Rise of the Beast film, Optimus does have an axe, and when he's not using it, when it's like on the ground, I think it's a bit more plain. But when he's actually using it, there's like blue and orange lights. It's kind of glowing and illuminating, which is cool. I think they probably should have gone for that. I think they should have had some orange and blue paint apps, some silver as well, but you can put it in either hand like so. I think that's cool. If you are a longtime viewer of the channel, you know I love melee weapons, so I quite like it. I just think it's a bit bland. It's a bit bland. I definitely think there could be more paint apps, but I think that looks pretty cool. But that is it for kind of the carryover, sort of crossover accessories. So I'm just going to put that off to the side. Now I can actually show you his actual accessories, which are just okay. But his first one is his classic blade, which I do quite like the gunmetal gray paint apps there, and there's some pretty nice sculpting and detailing there as well. And it's a very simple process on how you actually add this or kind of apply it to the figure. There is a small port there, and there is a post right there, and that can just plug into place like so. And there we have his sword attached, and you can, if you want to, attach it to the other arm. Really doesn't matter which arm. I think he probably should have included two, because I actually think he might have used two in the film at one time. Maybe it's been a while since I've seen the film, a couple months. But I think two would have been a good touch, because I really wouldn't say it's the most, complex accessory. It's really just a small piece of plastic painted gunmetal gray. So I really don't think it would have costed them that much more money. But as for the final accessory, I have to say I don't want to be too negative. It's a very bad accessory in my opinion, but it's supposed to be his Rise of the Beast inspired cannon. He's supposed to be able to transform his forearm, and you can attach on this barrel, and it sort of looks like the gun has formed out of his arm. I know what they were trying to do, I just don't think how it turned out looks very, very good, because it's very small, it's not painted. I do like the sculpt work, I do like the barrel and the really cool kind of spike going out the front. I'm pretty sure it is Blast Beast compatible. I would just be cautious of this little spike there, because it is quite thin, so it could snap. Just be aware of that. Again, I understand their approach and what they were trying to do. I just don't think it really delivered and looks how it's supposed to, but it does require a bit of transformation with the arm. Really what you're supposed to do is just open up this panel right here, and then you're just supposed to fold in the hands and close it up, and you're going to use that post, of course, with this port. And again, like this sword, you can do either arm, it does not matter, but you can plug that on there. And yeah, it just does not work. I'm pretty sure there is supposed to be an upgrade kit out there by some company, and they're supposed to be making much better, bigger versions of the cannon, which I probably will buy, because this just does not cut it. But that is pretty much it for accessories. Starting off our comparisons, here we have the Voyager class Optimus Prime compared alongside the Leader class Optimus Primal. I think scale or size wise, I definitely think it works. I think it's accurate to the Rise of the Beast film. And let me know in the comments, figure wise, which one do you like more? The Leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime, or the Leader of the Maximals, Optimus Primal? And I might sound crazy, but I think I probably like Optimus Primal more. I know, of course, this Optimus Prime figure has been kind of regarded as one of the best Studio Series figures and one of the best Optimus Prime figures ever, but I think I probably like Optimus Primal more. But that is it for that comparison. So now for another one. Here he is with his Autobot teammates, that being Mirage, and his review should be up on the channel very soon. And now for one final comparison, another maximal comparison. Here he is with Voyager class Cheetor. And that is it for comparisons. So now for transformation, what you want to do is go to the chest. You can actually swing open both chest doors like so. And there will be a panel on the inside, and it's a bit hard to access because, of course, this is a pretty small, tight space. What I would advise to do is actually grab any nail and just actually put it in between both little clips or kind of tabs like that, and just fold this up and just lightly press it against Optimus Prime's face or head sculpt. Of course, you don't want to push it because his head sculpt is painted, so of course it could chip and scratch it. So just kind of have it rest there and sit there. You can actually grab the entire plate or kind of panel that the head sits on, untab that and fold that on the inside of the chest, and of course close both chest doors like so. You can actually go to the entire arm and open up that gray panel, fold in the hand, and then of course close that up. You can actually rotate at the bicep, and how you know you actually properly rotate and actually have the arm in the proper configuration for the truck mode is just make sure this entire gray panel is facing in for the truck mode, and of course for the row mode you're going to have the entire gray panel face out on the other side. Of course, repeat the exact same process and steps on the other side. Just open up that panel, fold in the hand, close that up, and then rotate at the bicep. You can actually go to the shoulder. There's this entire small little kind of square or rectangle. Hinge this down on this really tight swivel. Of course, flip it around, rotate this down again, and there we go. And then what you can do is actually go to the entire top torso section. It's actually sort of like an ab crunch. You can actually use it for posability. It's mostly due to transformation, but you're actually going to hinge the entire chest down. So it's pretty much pointing at the feet, or of course pointing at the floor like so. You can actually go to the butt region. You can actually grab the wheels, fold these out like so. You can actually hinge the arms up and out of the way. You can then untab the entire back panel like so. How this is tabbed into place is there's this entire square section here. There's these two little clips, and there's this huge mushroom peg pretty much at the butt region or the back region of the figure. You're going to rotate the entire top torso all the way around like that. And then we're actually going to focus on the legs now. So you're actually going to flip to pretty much the back section or the back of the legs. You can actually get these two small panels and hinge these out. Not all the way up, not just yet, just kind of hinge them out, just loosen them. And they were actually tabbed into the entire pretty much back section of that leg panel. So there's a tab there and a slot right there. And of course, same connection with the other leg. You can then flip back to the front. So you're actually going to grab that panel that little smaller one was tabbed into. So loosen this up and hinge this out like that. There is two tabs and of course two corresponding slots, and that connection I just showed you with that smaller piece. And since that is now free, you can get the small panel and fold it up like so. Repeat the same process on their side. So just loosen this entire panel like that. It's actually pretty tabbed into place. Just loosen that. There we go. And then you can just hinge that up, and again get that smaller panel there, fold it up like so. You can then grab the feet. You're going to rotate them in on that ball joint. There is a little tab there and a slot on the foot, and that will just slide up into place, and it should be nice and flush with that smaller panel that I just hinged up. Same process with the other foot, just of course hinge that up into that little notch. And there you have pretty much the trailer hitch section almost all done. Of course, we'll go back to those panels in just a second. Now we're actually going to go to the entire form. You can actually fold this panel out, and there's a smaller one on the inside. You can actually also fold that out. Same with the other one, just fold the smaller one out and this other one as well. And there we go. And now for this next step, it's actually quite challenging. I'm going to try and show you as smoothly and as simply as possible because it can be a bit messy at times, but there is this hinge pretty much at the base of the shoulder, and it pretty much allows for, of course, the shoulder to move up and down for the row mode. But for the truck mode, you're actually going to want to have it move back, kind of like how a butterfly joint operates. But of course, this entire gray piece, you're just going to hinge this all the way back like that. And then to have the shoulder, of course, move back up, I would actually really advise to hold that gray piece in place as much as you can, and then of course while you're holding it you can move the shoulder back up. And now of course, since you move that gray piece, you can now have that proper working butterfly joint for the truck mode. You can then use the elbow bend and just kind of hinge that piece up like that. Repeat all the same steps I just showed you on the other side. So of course, hinge that gray piece down and then just hold that into place while you move the shoulder back up into its correct position. You can then use the elbow bend. You can actually use that butterfly joint that I mentioned, and then you can actually use the bicep, and you're just going to fold this entire forearm panel into place like that. It can be a bit hard to align everything sometimes because it's a really tight space and there's actually a lot of tabs and connections, but it should end up something like that. But of course, repeat the same step and process on the other side. So use that bicep rotation and hinge that in, tab it into place like that. You can then actually go to the side. So this entire panel that has the Autobot symbol, you're going to fold this down so you cannot see it anymore. And how this is tabbed into place is there's a tab there and a slot right there. Same with the other side, fold that panel down, and there's these two little small ones on kind of the roof of the truck. There's the slot here, and there's two tabs there, and that will just fold in to kind of form the other portion of the roof. So just fold that in, and you can straighten up the smokestack. Sometimes those kind of move and get a bit weird. And then you can actually go to the side. There's this small little hip skirt piece. There's, of course, one on the corresponding other leg. And how this will tab into place for the truck mode is there's a small little post there, and there's a port on the inside, and you can just kind of squeeze both sides, and they should stay in most of the time, but I might actually have to re-tab those back into place in a little bit. But of course, you're going to go to the front. There's this entire kind of roll cage grill section. As you can see, there is 2 posts, and there's 2 ports, and there is tabs on both sides, and there's some slots right there, so tons of connections, and you're just going to, of course, squeeze that all into place like that. You can then go to the back. You can actually tab the legs or the trailer hitch section into place. And now for these 2 panels, there's a lot of connections. There's actually 3 total connections. There is a post and a port. There's also a tab and a slot. And there's a tab there, and there's actually a slot pretty much on the inside of the leg or the thigh. And that one's a bit hard to show and do, so I probably will only get these 2 connections because it's really hard to get all 3 perfectly aligned and connected. But you're just going to bend at that hinge and tab everything into place. As you can see, I really wasn't able to fully connect that 3rd tab into place. Sometimes it just happens that way, but you can barely notice. The panel still stays, of course, with those 2 connections. 3 probably might be a bit much, but of course, same thing with the other side. Just hinge that in and get that post and that tab aligned and tabbed into place. And as for the last step, you're going to bring out these little oil drums like that. And that is pretty much it for transformation. Let's now take a look at the details. Here we have Optimus Prime in his truck mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very front. I do like this entire roll cage section at the front of the truck, done in this really nice light gray color with some really cool pipe and nut and bolt detailing sculpted in it with these really cool kind of spikes or fins sticking out of the front of the roll cage with some really nice silver for this entire front grille section here with this really nice layered pound effect with some more silver for these front headlights and some black for these small sculpted in windshield wipers. I do like the tinted gray and black windows with some more silver for this entire front roof section here above the windows, and there's this small little area here. Hopefully you can see it through the screen or through the camera, but there's actually this small little kind of diamond square shape, which I think would have been perfect to put an Autobot symbol. Unfortunately, Hasbro decided not to, but if you do have a small sticker sheet of Autobot symbols or logos, maybe you could slap one on there. I think that would look pretty cool. But if we do look at that side profile there, of course, quite a few people have a lot to say and talk about with the back section of the truck, but I'm really just looking at this main front section of the truck from this side. I have to say, it doesn't look too bad. So, of course, getting a little bit closer, I do like all these small sculpted in detailing, like the small little window, this mirror, there's a ton of handles. I do love the silver and the red with the really nice kind of layered pound effect. As you can see, if you just get really close, there's a ton of just details kind of stacked on top of each other. Just looks so good. I just like the front 2 wheels. They're actually pinned wheels. And one really cool thing you might not already know about this figure or this truck mode, there's actually 2 different or separate wheel designs Hasbro actually decided to add for this figure or for this truck mode. So of course the front ones are pinned, the back 4 are mushroom peg. Typically I do prefer pin wheels, but as long as you actually cannot see the exposed mushroom peg, I typically don't mind. But design wise, they're actually different if you do look close enough. I probably prefer the back one, but the front ones are fine. I do like the silver and the really cool kind of circular sections in there with the really nice nut and bolt detailing inside. There's this really cool kind of oil drum or oil canister, which funny enough, I actually do have the same problem on this figure as I do with the Earthrise Optimus Prime. If you did see that review several years back, you probably know what I'm about to say, but the oil drum, unfortunately, on both these figures really does not want to stay. There's no locking mechanism. They actually do fold kind of inside the leg because this entire section here is kind of the side and the front of the leg, and the oil drum, of course, kind of becomes a part of the thigh, which is fine and all, but it never really wants to stay out or kind of open for this mode. There's no tab, no locking mechanism, which is a bit unfortunate, and as I just mentioned, was a similar problem with Earthrise Optimus Prime, so I don't know what it is with oil drums and Optimus Prime, so I do hope maybe for a future Optimus Prime figure, whatever it is, they can fix that. But I do have to mention the classic, iconic smokestacks, very classic, typical trait and detail for Optimus Prime, which don't look too bad. I actually have heard a bit of talk. Some people say they're a bit too big for this figure. I think size-wise and proportion-wise, they're fine for the truck and the remote, in my opinion anyway. But I'm not really a big fan of the cheap, kind of unfinished gray color and plastic they chose. I think for the roll cage, it's fine. It seems a bit, strong, sort of metal-like. I think that makes sense. It works for me, but for the smokestacks, I think a nice bright silver and maybe some like black for these tip sections to kind of show, smoke has been kind of spewing out of those. I think that would have been cool. Just a few extra pin-ups would have finished it and made it look a little bit better. But if we do look at this back section here, yeah, definitely one of my least favorite areas of the truck mode. Quite a few people have been comparing this to previous Studio Series Optimus Prime figures, and a lot of people say the front section of the truck is better than all those Optimus Prime figures, but the back section, the previous Optimus Prime figures have done better. One really good one to compare it to is Earthrise Optimus Prime. I know he wasn't a Studio Series Optimus Prime figure, but his back section of the truck did look a lot better. That being said, one reason why I'm not really as bothered by this as I usually would be is these two panels here actually do have somewhat of a purpose for accessory storage. You actually can store one of the accessories on either of these panels, so it does serve some purpose. If they were just put there, with no actual practical use, I would have been a bit more bothered, but maybe some third-party company will really release some upgrade kit to somewhat change that and maybe fold them in a better way. But that being said, I do have to say the actual truck bed does not look too bad. Really, it's just this kind of back section or other side of the truck looks the worst, but this actual truck bed here really does not look that bad. Yes, there is a bit of a gap here which actually can be filled. That actually also comes into play with the other accessory that I'll show off in just a sec, but detail wise, that is pretty much it for Optimus Prime. So now for some comparisons, here he is with the Leader Class Optimus Primal. I think they look pretty cool side by side, and his separate review is up on the channel right now. Make sure you check it out after this one if you haven't already. I think size-wise, I definitely think it works. I think it's in scale for the Rise of the Beast film. And now for another comparison, here he is with another Maximal, that being the Voyager class Rhinox, which I actually still have not gotten around to review. I will try and do that very soon. And now for one final comparison, here he is with Cheetor. And that is pretty much it for comparisons. So now for accessory storage, you actually do want to go to this back section here, and one of the accessories does require a bit of transformation or modification on the figure for it to actually be stored with it. It's a bit hard to show. I'm going to try and go slow and smoothly as possible as you can actually know how to do it. But if you do look inside there is a small little port, and you're going to want to separate pretty much this entire back section or the legs. There's a tab on this side and a slot on that side, and you can actually bring out his one sword. There is a post there, and of course it's going to go into that corresponding port on the figure. So just kind of align that up and plug it into place. And one way you can make sure it's actually plugged in is you can actually kind of squeeze the sides, and you can make sure it's in. And then if you want to, you can just kind of hinge this down like that. Make sure that's nice and secure. And as I mentioned before, the oil drums do have a tendency to kind of go in, but you can just bring those back out. And there is the sword weapon accessory attached. And as for his blaster, it's definitely a more simple way of attaching it, much easier. You can, I'm pretty sure, do it on either side. But there is a small tab there, and there is a small slot right there. And that just tabs into place like that. Just to line that up. And that is it for accessory storage and this truck mode. Let's now get down to reverse transformation. So now for reverse transformation, what you want to do is go to the side of the truck. You're actually going to fold in the entire oil drum or oil barrel. Then you can actually grab this entire hip screw piece, just separate it from the leg, just kind of pop it out like that. How this is tabbed in place is there is a post right there and there is a port on the inside of that panel. You can repeat the exact same steps and process on the other side. So just fold in the barrel, grab this entire hip screw piece, just fold it out like that. Same connection, the post and port system. You can actually grab this entire panel here, fold this up. There is a tab there and a slot right there. Just fold it up just like that. Repeat the exact same step and process on their side. Just fold it up like that. There's these small two little gray panels on top of the truck. You can actually split these kind of down the middle or in half. Of course, one's going to fold on this side and one's going to fold on that side. And if you're wondering how that was tabbed or kind of secured for this mode, there's two slots and two tabs right there in that section. Then we can actually go to the back. What I'm going to do is actually split pretty much the legs or the trailer hitch section in half or down the middle. You can actually grab this entire panel and separate it from pretty much the entire smokestack. And how this is tabbed into place, there's actually three connections. There is a post there, and there's a port right there. There is a tab, and there's a slot. And the third one is a bit hard to show. Hopefully you can see it, but there is a tab right there and there is a slot pretty much on the inside of the leg or thigh. And then what you can do is actually flip pretty much to the underside of the truck or the leg. You can actually bring this entire little panel out like that. Don't fully bring it down because you're actually going to want to do that after you grab this entire front leg panel and fully hinge that down. So we'll go back to that panel in just a sec. You can then grab the foot, hinge this out, and then of course forward. You can grab the entire leg panel. There is a tab there and a slot right there, and there's another tab and another slot, and that will just tab into place. Then we can actually go back to that panel I just showed you. There is a tab and a slot, and that will just tab into place and fully kind of solidify and lock the leg into place. So of course, you're going to repeat all those same steps I just showed you for the other leg. So of course, grab the foot, hinge this down and forward. You can then, of course, untab this entire panel here, bring this down like that, go to the back, grab this entire small panel, of course, hinge this fully down and against the leg, and then just, of course, tab that into the back of the leg. It's a pretty tight connection, and there we have the legs all done. Let me just quickly straighten them up back to a neutral position. We can then go to the front. What you want to do is actually grab these panels at the top, disconnect them like that, hinge them out. And then you can actually grab the entire front kind of roll cage grill section, just separate this from the rest of the truck. As you can see, there are several tabs and posts and ports. There's more on the inside of this panel right here. And then what you can do is actually grab pretty much the entire arm and shoulder and fully extend this out like that. And do the same thing with the other one. Fully grab the arm and shoulder and just hinge this out like that. And then what you want to do is there's this entire kind of shoulder hinge here. As you can see for the truck mode, you can actually hinge the shoulder back kind of like a butterfly joint. But for the road mode, you're actually going to hinge this entire section up like that. It's a very, very tight hinge. There we go. And now, of course, for the remote mode, you can actually hinge the shoulders up like that. So there we go. Repeat the exact same step and process on their side. Just hinge this entire joint and hinge up. It's a very tight hinge. There we go. Hinge that up. And then what you can do is actually get the shoulders and the arms fully out of the way as much as you can. You're going to rotate this entire section all the way around, so like that. You can actually grab this entire panel, fold this up and out of the way. You can go to kind of the butt region of the figure. You can fold in the wheels like that, fold in the wheels, and then you can actually fully collapse this entire assembly down like that. And this entire back panel, there's this entire kind of slot section. There's two clips, and that will just tab into place like that. Now let me just kind of quickly straighten up and place the figure. I'm actually going to move the camera so you can see all of what I'm doing. You can actually move the shoulders down back to a normal position. You're going to go to the shoulder region. There's this entire little panel here. You're going to fold this up for the robot mode. Go to the other side. Fold this up for the robot mode. Like that. There we go. And then you can actually rotate at the biceps. So one way you know you actually rotate and have the entire form and arm in the correct position is make sure this entire gray panel is actually facing out. But of course, for the truck mode, you're going to have the entire gray piece or panel facing in. You can then go to the back side of this panel right here, fold the smaller one in, and then of course fold this entire huge panel in just like that. And of course there we have the entire form all done. Last step you need to do is bring the hand out, which I'll do in just a sec. Again, rotate at the bicep, just make sure this entire gray panel is facing out. And then you can go to the back, just fold the small panel in, fold the larger panel in, and then you can actually open up this entire little gray square panel, grab the entire hand. Typically what I like to do is just kind of press on this little post and it will pop right out just like that. Close that panel up like that. Same thing with the other one, just open up this small panel, just kind of push on the post if you want to, like that, and then close that up. And as you can see, he does not have a head, so you're going to open up the chest doors like that. And no, you do not see a matrix, you actually do see Optimus Prime's head, so you're just going to fold this entire assembly out. You can grab the smaller panel, fold that back inside the chest, close the doors, and let me just quickly straighten up the figure, but that is pretty much it for reverse transformation. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. Now for my final thoughts on the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beast 102 Voyager class Optimus Prime. Now, one question I know I'm going to get in the comments of this video is, where did I find this figure? I found this figure at a small local shop for slightly above retail price, so I highly advise you to check your small toy and comic book shops and do not pay the aftermarket prices. Now, starting in the remote, I think Hasbro did a great job taking Optimus Prime from the big screen and recreating it into toy form. Optimus Prime looks great with his classic blue, red, and silver colors. As for accessories, Optimus Prime includes one gunmetal gray sword that can attach onto his form, which creates this really cool effect like the sword has been formed out of his arm, but I think the figure should have included two. Optimus Prime's final accessory is his signature Rise of the Beast cannon, which I have to say I'm really disappointed with. The weapon is completely unpainted and it's very small and inaccurate to the film. I think Hasbro could have done a lot better considering this is a Target exclusive. As for articulation, it's overall pretty good for a Voyager class figure, almost up with the same posability as a leader class. My one complaint with the articulation is the shoulders. They just move and articulate very weirdly. It makes posing the figure not very fun. As for transformation, overall quite involving and challenging the first few times, but still fun. Now for Optimus Prime's truck mode, I love all the small details like the nut and bolt detailing and the cool roll cage at the front of the truck with the huge smokestacks in the back. One major complaint people have with the truck mode is the back of the truck with all the remote cable. I have to agree it could look better, so I think the Optimus Prime figure is great, but I think Hasbro should have made a leader class so they could fix those small problems like the accessories and the back of the truck. What do you think of this figure? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you next time.